interesting recommendation by RBI panel. Essentially, if I were to sum it up, telling the banks that you must make it easy for your customers.
Exactly, the operative phrase is make it easy. So like you said, online settlement claims for the heirs of the deceased have been recommended. Submission of certificates by pensioners, there's a flexibility that needs to be added on that. That's been a know your customer database, centralized database has been recommended. For people who have lost their documents, the panel has suggested that free of cost, people from the banks will help them get new copies of these certificates.
Right.
So at their own cost, so it will be free to the customer.
Okay.
And also there will be a system where complainants can track the processing of their grievances and complaints as they are going through. So these are some of the big recommendations that have been put forward. And again, I will come back to what you said, make it easy.
Make it easy. Abhijit, interesting recommendations there. Let me quickly, for the benefit of our viewers, apprise them that the panel was set up on 23rd of May 2022 under the chairmanship of former Deputy Governor BP Kanungo. Essentially, the expert panel has now proposed a list of recommendations in line with what banks can do to make customers' lives easy, Abhijit.
Yeah, good morning, Shweta. I don't think the RBI or any other authority has in the past, in a single stroke, recommended so many steps that will make life easy for the customers. I mean, each of them, the absence of each of them have proved to be of great harassment. Let me list you a few examples. Now, I can give you an example from a very close person I know very closely. He had an app of the largest banker in the country. Now, suddenly he has 2 or 3 accounts linked to that app. Now, believe me, suddenly one day, after, the account has been in existence for the last 50 years and has been passed down from his parents to him. Now, suddenly, this account just goes off from his app. I could see him, the panic that he was in. He rushed to the bank. He, in fact, took leave from the office, rushed to the bank, only to be told that you are supposed to renew your KYC. He said, what the hell? I mean, this account has been in operation in this very bank, in this very address. And for more than 50 years, my parents used to operate it and now operate it with my wife. And I have submitted KYC a few years ago. So what's the problem? He said, no, periodically it has to be submitted. And this is a must. And unless you submit the KYC afresh, this account is not going live. So just imagine the amount of harassment that it can, make to customers. That's incredible. So if that one goes, there is nothing like, like it to make the life of a customer easier. Then also take the instance of pensioners. You and I all know that pensioners around the country, they're all senior people. Some of them are super senior citizens. They have, and some of them have actually none to fall back on. And they have to trudge to the bank, which is where their account is linked and which is not definitely the closest bank to their residence. And believe me, in this summer or even in winter, as the case might be in different parts of the country, they actually have to undertake a lot of pain, stand in the queues, submit life certificate, and one can actually endanger his or her own life by going to submit a life certificate in this heat. So, submitting life certificate in the nearest branch will also be of great help. And believe me, those who are infirm or are really suffering from different ailments and have nobody to perhaps lay his shoulder on, lay his head on his shoulder, he or she, how can he go and stand in a queue and then again travel quite a lot of distance? So that will again help a lot of people. Another point which I think we didn't mention so far is that the Apex Bank has said, if you have pledged a collateral and taken a loan, and if once the loan has been repaid, and if the collateral is not released in time, the bank in question has to pay a penalty.
Okay.
Now, this I think is a very, very important step, because all of us know that banks often, take time to release assets which have been held as collaterals. This can be true for real estate. This can be true for gold loans. This can be true for many things. So this is another very important, improvement that the central bank has recommended. And also, I think there are other heirs inheriting their parents' accounts and other financial instruments. Now, most of us today, we travel outside, out of the state at least, if not out of the country, and if you have to take leave from everywhere and come back running to claim proper legal inheritances, that actually makes life a very, very difficult. Now, so all of these actually go to help the service of banks. Another thing I forgot to mention is that mis-selling of insurance, mutual funds, etc. by banks. This is something all of us have faced. Whenever you step into a bank today, thank God it's not that frequent like earlier years, but you will be accosted. I'm using the word accosted almost deliberately, because I know of people who have faced very persistent salesmen from the banks who are out there to get their increment and promotion, whatever is linked, or incentive linked to the amount of insurance or the amount of MFs that they can sell to unsuspecting customers who might be stepping in the bank premises. So
Right.
this is another which the RBI has said auditors must take into account while reviewing the performance of banks. So I think all these will actually make life a lot easier.
Do you know what stands apart for me, Amit, is also a very interesting takeaway that is coming out of the panel. That is, customer-facing staff and officers should undergo mandatory soft skill training. So what the panel is also recommending here essentially is that you should know how to treat your customers when they come into the bank. The idea that customer is the king, that has so far been only experienced or put into practice in retail, is now hopefully will also be put into practice in public sector banking, which is where a lot of people say we are harassed quite a bit, and not many people listen to us, and we are not really spoken to very, very nicely. So the reason why a lot of people go for private banking as opposed to public banking is because you don't get the experience that you want in public sector banks. And this could change that if at all implemented.
Yeah, it's good that the RBI has recognized that the problem is not restricted to numbers and certificates. It is a human problem, and that needs to be addressed, and that is what they're addressing. So that's a step, a new step, and a step in a very good direction. Actually, it could basically take off on other things that banks will recognize in their other services that they're offering to customers.
Absolutely. Abhijit, I think very interesting there, the training in soft skills, because as I mentioned, so far you only experience niceties in private banking, and with public banking, I think one of the problems that everybody, irrespective of their age and who they are, continue to face is that it's not easy to bank with, let's say, an RBI or a PNB, if I may name them, as opposed to an HDFC, where you're going to be treated better.
Shweta, absolutely correct. Though we, later in the show, perhaps, as you said, we will be mentioning one of the, misdemeanors of an HDFC manager, actually. So, yeah, HDFC or ICICI or Axis or whatever, Kotak Mahindra, you actually step into a private bank, you will get a completely different experience. And that brings me to another point, Shweta. This is very important in the semi-urban and rural branches. Believe me, especially people in the rural branches, they are, they think that they will be beholden to the bank if they get the minimum service and the minimum courtesy. The amount of mistreatment is far greater in the rural branches than in the cities. Unfortunately, the media is more or less focused in the cities, so the rural population actually remains without a voice. And it will be of great help if the RBI actually implements such steps, that the rural folk who actually travels a lot to go to their bank
Right.
for all the essential services. As you know, the online services that we resort to frequently here in cities, they are by and large absent in the rural areas. So that poor guy has to trudge to the bank to get his service done. And there, in fact, the number of people that is serviced by a particular branch is far higher than in the cities. And these poor people actually wait for hours and they get treated badly. So if the soft skills improve, if they can handle, I can understand there is also a lot of pressure on the people, who are at the customer interface at the banks, especially the PSUs. But then again, you cannot really take the customer for granted, and it has to improve, especially in the semi-urban and rural branches. Let me tell you, in the cities, there is a lot of media pressure. There is a lot of pressure, as you will, you mentioned in the HDFC staff. He actually got suspended due to a misdemeanor. So these sort of checks and balances, the people are more voiced as opposed to the voiceless guys in the rural areas. So I think the services, this problem is accentuated in the rural areas more, and the RBI has to actually step up the vigil, perhaps.
Right, and RBI seems to be stepping up there. Krishna Kumar joining us. Krishna, very briefly, good morning. We discussed extensively RBI panel's guidelines on how banks should be treating their customers. A series of recommendations made there. What, according to you, stands out?
Well, the fact that the banks which are not returning borrowers' documents even after the closure of the loan account and penalizing them, that really stood out for me because that really was, in my opinion, a signal from RBI to banks to buck up and treat customers better. Especially in the kind of economic environment that we live in today, what we've been through during the pandemic, the importance of people's savings, the importance of people's money, and the importance of quick, fast, and easy banking. This has been taken up by the RBI seriously, as you've been rightly telling everybody that the committee for this was set up about a year ago. They've come out with their final recommendations, strong recommendations. I'll be eager to see how big banks, both public sector and private sector, start implementing some of these things, like the ones you were just discussing, how to train the banking employees, the staff over there to deal with customers, because of so many untoward incidents at the bank offices that have been seen. The RBI taking cognizance of that, and RBI also taking cognizance of any lacks or from the bank side when it comes to returning borrowers loan documents, property documents, to anything. So there is clearly, as we've been talking about, a customer first approach that the RBI is subscribing to, is telling the banks. I'm just hoping how soon and how well will the banks implement these suggestions.